Once the designers have done their work, it's time to hand over the file to Magic Development. And right here inside R&D, there's everything a Magic developer needs. We've got pens, we've got paper, dice, lots of tokens, emblems, candy, core set player's guide, a Pez dispenser, but most important of all, playtest cards. Lots and lots of playtest cards.
A lot of people don't really know what development is for, but it is super important to the process of making Magic sets. Design, which we often call initial design, is where you kind of create the substructure. You're kind of taking the vision and the broad ideas and populating a set with cards. But often, when you're just trying to show what the vision is trying to do, you're not really paying attention to how fun Magic is to play. And that's where development comes in. Development is all about how can the total experience be the same exciting, fun Magic that you know with these twists that are, about the mechanics of the set.
So miracles are instants or sorceries that have a big effect for a lot of mana, but they have this other way you can cast them, which is if it's the first card you draw in a turn, so you're drawing your first card, you look at it, and if it's a miracle, you can cast it right then for its miracle cost, which is a lot less.
With miracles, what we did is really try to preserve the splash that design handed off. There's a lot of iconic effects. One of the miracles is a Time Walk variant, which you can actually pay for its miracle cost one U, just like the original Time Walk. And that was a major constraint on development working on these cards, especially in the FFL role, where we're trying to make sure they're safe for high-level constructed, is we couldn't just make the card worse by making its miracle cost different. We had to kind of keep that link to the iconic, splashy original.
How do we make these exciting if you draw them early in the game and late in the game? Like we have a few that are X spells, and in some ways those are one of the creative solutions we had to the problem where, like Bonfire of the Dam in particular, like it's a reasonable card if you play it through many turns of the game if you just happen to draw it in your opening hand, for example. But if you draw like Terminus on turn 9, okay, well I played it for 1, maybe I can play a creature on that turn, it's not a big deal, but like we wanted to make sure that we have some like Entreat the Angels and Bonfire of the Dam that like when you draw them on turn 10, it's like that much more spectacular.
Soulbond as a mechanic, actually, we started with it in New Phyrexia as a different kind of mechanic. But when we started Avacyn Restored, Brian and Mark and Ken and I, all of us really liked that mechanic. And so we thought, well, can we take this and move it and make it a little bit easier to grok, a little bit easier to play with?
The problem that we encountered with this in development is that it's also very deceptively powerful. Trusted Force Mage, for example, is a 2G, 2/2, gives +1/+1 when soulbound. Problem with this is that it doesn't look as amazing as it is. And in fact, design originally handed over a G11 like this. If you think about it, it's a 1/1. That's 1 power. It gives +1/+1 to another guy. It's another power. It gives +1/+1 to itself when it's paired up. Well, it's another power. It's 3 power for a 1-drop. Well, you've seen what that's done in Modern and Wild Nicodle. That's a little challenging.
But then we found too frequently you would have one of these guys on the battlefield and nothing to link to it. And so we were just playing with other versions, trying to make it work a reasonable amount and work with other cards you might already own. And we tried different versions, and it just turned out there's a lot of haggling over what the words on the card would be, the template. But we eventually got it to, okay, when this enters the battlefield, or if it's not bound, when another creature enters the battlefield, it can link up to that one.
So we knew we had 2 Planeswalker slots to fill because design passed it over with just open holes. So Tybalt came to us more as a creative, flavorful idea that what if we had a Planeswalker who just ignited their spark, like they just became a Planeswalker? What would that mean exactly? This could be a Denizen of Innistrad, like what's a cool thing in Innistrad that we could use? And Dave Humphries actually thought, like, why don't we do a really low mana cost Planeswalker? Like, how low can we go? And that's where we started kind of thinking about, like, what would you get for a 2-mana Planeswalker that still is relatively fair, even though it seems so unfair?
When we realized that we wanted a mono-red Planeswalker instead, we naturally said, okay, let's see if there's space there.
We came up with this kind of 2 ultimates plan where we have Tybalt, who has a plus ability that's kind of, it's okay, it's not great. We kind of assumed that a 2-mana Planeswalker is not for everyone. It's going to be something that you might want to maximize in your deck or not use at all because it's not as far sweeping and epic as some of the higher mana Planeswalkers. But then, the other 2 abilities are kind of like 2 ultimates where you can kind of trap your opponent in between the 2 of them, where it's like, oh, if you're not playing out your cards, you get slammed by this sudden impact ability. If you are playing out your cards, I'm going to steal them all with the insurrection ability. And that we really felt was like a cool way to make this low mana Planeswalker where every turn it's not having the crazy effect, but every turn it has the threat of the effect in the future. And that was kind of what we came to, and it seemed to work out really well.
Tamiyo is one of my favorite cards in the set. It's a very powerful card. It's versatile in the fact that you can play it in your own Swarm deck. You can try to punish somebody that's maybe coming at you with a bunch of lingering souls, tokens.
But the interesting thing about Tamiyo was how can we avoid the Jace problem, which is Jace is really cool and everyone really likes Jace as a character and what he does as his Planeswalker cards, but he kind of spans this space where if you just want to make a mono blue Planeswalker, like what can you put on that makes it feel different? For Tamiyo, we came up with this idea that like, okay, she freezes things because she's all about like very long-term research, see what's going on. She can draw a bunch of cards based on what she observes, and then her ultimate is basically this idea that like, once you've found the thing you were searching for, you can spend as long as you need delving into its secrets. I think she's at the right level of power too, because we play a lot of her in our Future League, but she's still relatively fair for a 6-mana Planeswalker.
It's a really, really fun and enjoyable card. We found an FFL and a very powerful one.
Avacyn Restored was going to be a set that had a lot of angels in it. Design certainly handed off a lot of angels, but because angels are awesome and we want to make sure that they still feel awesome, we wanted to make sure there weren't too many not awesome feeling angels, especially at common. So of course, if you want angels to feel like a big thing that's going on in the set, it has to show up at common. And if it's showing up at common, then they need to feel like they're commons. So we spent a long time kind of moving around and looking for like reprints, and it was just some angels at common are just too good. Like they're uncommon and above for a reason, and we didn't want the limited environment to just feel like you should play white all the time, because that's not fun. It's much more fun when people are playing lots of different colors all the time. So what we came up with was Seraph of Dawn, which is quite a powerful common for limited, but if that's the biggest one, then that's okay. It's okay to have one that's like a really good angel at common. And then we also came up with Voice of the Provinces, which gives you kind of a higher mana cost, still feels like an angel, is not super oppressive or super awesome in terms of how powerful it is, but it still feels like an angel. And then of course at higher rarities, we got to do really cool things with angels. There's a bunch of rare angels, and then of course there's Avacyn, Angel of Hope, who is quite amazing and pulled the highest whenever we did rare polls internally, because it just seems so amazing and is so amazing. It just is a great card to build around.
So the Hell Vault opens, and out comes Avacyn, the savior of humanity. And she's really like the flagship of this set, named after her, and we really wanted to make sure that she was just this awesome force for good. In that line of text, you get everything about her. She wants to preserve the world, she wants to save things, and she's a team player.
What does Black get? Black gets Gristlebrand, and we knew he was supposed to be a powerful demon, and so we're talking about what's a powerful card. And to me, nothing says powerful as much as potent. So we went to Necropotence, one of the most powerful cards ever printed. It's won Pro Tours, it's been restricted and banned, it's an insane card. The question was, well, all right, so he's a demon, and he lets you pay life to draw cards. What else does he do? It's like, well, what if he made you gain the life so you could just keep drawing more cards? Yeah, he doesn't protect your whole army. You don't care about your army. You're a black mage. You just draw 7 cards, and if they kill him, well, that's unfortunate, but you drew 7 cards. Maybe you can get him back somehow. If they didn't kill him, you just swing over 7, gain 7 life, kill all their stuff with the cards you drew, and if you need 7 more cards, just do it again. It's great.
And with all of that, it's development's job to take those grand, lofty ideas from design and get them into a product that we can publish.